Hey y'all, welcome back to MovementLink. So I just wanted to continue the conversation again about workout motivation. I know this can be a hard thing for people, especially when you're working out alone, but even if you have a gym community and coaches that you're going into, it can still be a tough thing. So I just want to talk about this concept of willpower. We can use this for getting ourselves to work out. We can also use this when we're trying to make better habits and implementing healthier foods or going to bed on time and all these other things. So what we like to think about and what we like to make sure people understand is that people who have made really good choices over and over and over again for years and years and years, a lot of people look to them as being these special people that have so much discipline and willpower, and really that's not the case. There's a lot of tips and strategies that we can use, and we like to think of it as we are very strong in very specific moments, and then we are really smart the other times to set up our lives in a way where it's really easy to be strong in these specific times. So a time that you need to be really strong and use a little bit of willpower if you're working out by yourself, it's just getting yourself to start to warm up. And I did another video where we talk about the value and the power of just warming up and not putting too much pressure on yourself. So really all we need to do is use a little bit of willpower to get yourself to warm up, and usually that takes care of the problem. So the way we like to look at willpower is that it's a depletable but also a renewable resource. So throughout the day, when you wake up in the morning, typically if you got a good night's sleep, you're going to have a lot of willpower. And then depending on what you do throughout the day, that willpower is going to get depleted and depleted. And then also depending on what you do, you might replenish it a little bit. So what we want to do is we don't want to rely on our willpower all the time, because that's just going to deplete it. And then when you're depleted and then you have this moment of, oh, I really wish I would not eat this, or I really wish I could work out. If you don't have any willpower left because you've already used it all day, you're not going to be able to get through those tough times. So what are the things? And I just realized that I probably should have made these red and those purple. But anyway, the purple are going to be things that deplete your willpower. So what are these? Making choices. So a lot of what we do in the Momentum program is help people pre-make choices. That way when situations arise, they don't have to think of, oh, what if this, if this, if this. All they do is, oh, I've already thought of this situation, I know what I do, and then they just implement it. This is so incredibly powerful, because if we're just making choice after choice after choice all day, it just slowly wears you down. Think of eating with your parents or in-laws or relatives, and you get in front of some people and they just ask you question after question after question after question, and you can hang in there for a little bit, but then over time you just get worn down and you just can't answer any more questions. So we just want to limit the number of choices we need to make by making those choices for ourselves earlier. Another thing is lack of sleep. When we are sleep deprived, our hormones are out of balance, our brain's not working the right way, our immune system's not working the right way, and it really, really depletes our willpower. So super, super huge thing is sleep. Low blood sugar. As we get hungry and hungrier, our willpower depletes. That doesn't mean eat sugar to replenish it. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But low sugar can take you down into this running out of willpower zone. Stress, just from everyday life. Inflammation. So we could be eating foods we're sensitive to or things that cause inflammation. We could be doing things like sitting for a long time that cause inflammation, and that can really hurt our willpower. And then just being sedentary and lethargic and not having that blood flow really impacts it negatively. So what do we do? It is inevitable that we are going to deplete willpower at least some. The hope is that you never run all the way down to the bottom. But if you're running low, or just as you work these things in the day, know that these can kind of top you off, is just eating food. So your brain tells you, especially as we get lower and lower and lower, your brain's looking for those fast burning fuels, sugars, carbohydrates, stuff like that, things that can be digested and used for energy really, really quickly. But we want to get really good at being able to use those fast burning energy sources, but also we want to get really good at running on things like fat, a more slow burning fuel that we can use. So the thing that I've learned over time, and the thing I try and really help people learn, is that when you get to these ranges, you almost have to ignore what your brain is telling you. Your brain is telling you fast food, fast, quick energy source. Any food is going to bump you back up. So stick with what we recommend. Eat real food, mostly plants, not too much. And there's a lot more that we go into there, but that's kind of the basics. And the thing to know here is eating any food will replenish that willpower. The other thing is sleep. Of course, if you're in the middle of the day, usually we don't recommend taking naps. It just means you didn't sleep well enough the night before, and that can throw off your circadian rhythm. But sleep is another thing. So if we are low on willpower, if we get a good night's sleep, that's going to help boost us up the next morning. Meditation. Now, this is something that's super interesting. Meditation is something that every single time before I meditate, just for whatever reason, I do not want to. And never once, not once afterwards, have I said to myself, I wish I wouldn't have done that. So meditation is an interesting one, but especially when I'm low on willpower, when I find myself kind of scattered and not knowing what to do next, especially when it comes to work, taking a second to meditate can be so good. And you can do that pre-workout. You can do that post-workout to kind of start the recovery process too. But pre-workout, it can be a really good way just to kind of calm you down for a second, so the world isn't spinning all crazy around you, and then you can just take it one thing at a time from there. So there's a lot of great maps or apps, Headspace. I use Calm. They're amazing. So if you've never meditated before, absolutely try it. I was skeptical too. It's okay to be skeptical. Even if you're skeptical, you should still try things so you can make your own opinions about them. The other thing is non-exercise activity. So when we're really low on willpower, something we can do is just kind of break that cycle in your head. Go for a 10-minute walk, things like that. Do a little bit of mobility, do a little bit of yoga. It's amazing how restorative that little bit can be. And then exercise can sometimes flip the switch too. And of course, when we're talking about motivation for working out, it doesn't make that much sense to work out to get motivated to work out. It will help you in the upcoming days. But it is something just to note that with willpower in general, especially if we're talking about business and work and being productive, exercise can give you such a brain boost. So that's something we want to have in there. I say sometimes because if we are really burned out and we're fatigued and we're really struggling and we go in and have a really hard exercise session, it can actually deplete. So if we are in these lower ranges, that's when we just want to take the pressure off. We want to move around and we want to exercise and we want to work out. We still want to do these things. But we also have to keep in mind that if we are going to have a really, really hard day, that is mentally fatiguing. And that's basically all willpower is mental fatigue. So just to recap real fast, it's not about being the super disciplined person. It's about having selective discipline and knowing when to go all in with your willpower. If it's, I don't want to eat this food, if it's, I can work out, because what we know is if we just get warmed up, we get that exercise in, we can boost that up. So there are some simple things that if we're lacking that motivation to work out, we need to rely on the willpower. And if we need to recharge the willpower, we know how to do it. And then also we need to rely on just using up absolutely everything we have in these very specific moments. It's not all day, every day. It's just in these specific moments. Use everything you got to get through those little tiny moments, and that will have that big impact. All right, I hope this is helpful. Talk to y'all soon.